Welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is hosted by Asher Agency, a comprehensive marketing partner for clients across the country. For more information, visit asheragency.com.
My guest is Brian Miller. Brian, how you doing?
Anthony, I'm doing great.
Well, thanks so much for doing this, and welcome back to Fort Wayne, I guess.
Absolutely. Been about 4 or 5 months. It's exciting to be home.
All right. So you were in Lexington, Kentucky for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm basing all this on your LinkedIn profile, and what you told me before we hit record. So you grew up in Fort Wayne. Where'd you go to high school?
Yeah, so I grew up in the country at Northwest Allen County Schools, product of Arcola Elementary, which super small, maybe 20 kids in our elementary class.
Wow.
And then it was a feeder school into Carroll High School, which is where I attended and graduated.
Okay.
Unbelievable experience there, Anthony. I'm really proud of my time in Fort Wayne, and it really helped shape who I am and gave me a ton of opportunities to grow and sort of sit with you today.
Yeah, well, Fort Wayne is not my original home. I grew up in Massachusetts and moved to Fort Wayne proper in about 2000. So it's been here a while. And, you know, one of the things that's kept me here is I genuinely like the fact that it's easy to make connections. You know, everyone knows everyone. And you and I hadn't met, I don't think so, before we started this podcast episode, but you know Kara and some other folks, so it all comes together, which is great.
It's relationships, and I mean, you're right. You know, you're as good as your word, and they coming back. It's the biggest small town in America almost, and
for sure,
everybody knows everybody, and it's been a welcomed homecoming for sure.
Well, great. Well, let's talk about how you got here. So you went to college at what was then IPFW, correct?
That's right.
Yep. So, and then you worked for IPFW for a while. And what were you doing then?
And so to back up a little bit,
please,
to kind of put an exclamation point on the people and the place of Fort Wayne. You know, I'm here today because, you know, somebody gave me a chance and believed in me and, you know, encouraged me and said, hey, you can do this. And by this, have a career in marketing and network and build relationships and ultimately be successful in whatever it is you want to do. And I'm in the middle of a career change that I know we'll talk a little bit about of, you know, hey, why? But for me as a young student in high school, I always wanted to be in sports, and sports marketing was something that was really starting to exist, but you were starting to see ESPN, you were starting to see broadcasters and Jerry Maguire and people that were having sports jobs that weren't necessarily the star football player or the basketball player, but to understand the business around college sports was something that was really starting to take off and really starting to be prevalent in the 90s. And so that's kind of what I leached into. In high school, I had a journalism teacher that gave me the opportunity to be active, to be engaged in school and be the sports editor. And then my sophomore year, I had a broadcasting opportunity to go down to the Allen County Public Library, pick up video equipment, and broadcast high school basketball games for Carroll back on what used to be Channel 10. And, you know, here I am, 16 years old, trying to do my best Dick Vitale impression. But it started this amazing world and unlocked opportunities for me to really be able to network. And, you know, one thing that we have here in Fort Wayne are these great sports organizations and a great minor league town. And so very early and young in my career, I had the opportunity to work for mentors like Mike Nutter, who's general manager of the Tin Caps, and Scott Sproat, who's now with Fort Wayne United and was with the Fort Wayne Comets back then, but really doing some really innovative stuff at a young age. And it led me, you're right, to an opportunity to stay home, be engaged at IPFW, where not only did I do 4 years as a student, but I spent 4 years working in the athletic department. And upon graduation, I had an opportunity to go work for Mike Nutter at the Tin Caps or to stay at IPFW, and I chose the college sports route as the longest title I ever held, but it was the Associate Director of Sports Information, Marketing, and Promotions. And you talk about wearing many hats. We were a small but mighty crew, leading the charge from Division II to Division I at that time. And really exciting to have a role to be able to work with men's and women's basketball primarily, although we were a volleyball powerhouse in both men's and women's at that time.
Is that when Loy Ball was at IPFW?
So Loy had left, but he was certainly doing the Olympics, and we're all super proud of him and his success. But Arnie, his father, was the legendary of going to Final Fours and was really in the heyday during my time there. And Kelly Hartley Hutton, who was now the athletic director, she was the women's volleyball coach at that time. So they were winning the games, but it was a kind of a transition of let's move men's basketball to the Coliseum. Let's try and dream about what an NCAA tournament might look like for admissions and sort of how this rising tide of college athletics could really shape this community and be something special. So I spent 4-5 years out building relationships, knocking on doors, and really trying to get this community behind IPFW. And we had a ton of fun and a ton of success, Anthony. We had Dick Vitale. Speaking of Dick Vitale, we had him here for one of our first homecomings. We had Otis Day and the Knights from the great movie Animal House. He came and did a homecoming for us, and home games against the Hoosiers, which they ended up beating with Coach John Kaufman, and away games to Michigan State and Notre Dame. So it was a really special time in my life, and something that I was really proud to do that I think was very transformational.
Well, and I think that the Fort Wayne market has really been a good fit for people like Coach Kaufman and Kelly Hartley Hutton. I have the good fortune to do some mentoring work with the men's basketball team, and I've gotten to know Coach Kaufman and have known Kelly Hartley Hutton for longer. And one of the things, I just said this today to someone I was speaking with, I said, one of the things I really like about that program is I genuinely believe that from Kelly on down and Coach Kaufman on down, they're as interested in what happens to these student athletes after basketball as what happens to them on the court. They're investing in, Coach Kaufman has put together a community mentor program where just last night I went to dinner with one of the players and another person in the community just to help them navigate any challenges they're having in Fort Wayne, life stuff that we all run into in college that now that I have a little gray hair, I might know how to resolve. And it's been really great. And that's, I think, a testament to that change from Division 2 to 1 and, some of the opportunities that come with that.
For 18, 19, 20-year-olds that are having to juggle both being a full-time student but also being a student athlete and having that responsibility, you are getting some of the brightest men and women on campuses that are natural leaders that are going on and doing great things, and it has paid dividends in this community. You look at the success of Brad Knoll as a local realtor, and Keon Henderson was a player that's now 8 million followers on social media, and what he's doing in Houston, Texas, is the leader of a church, and now just had released a book. It's amazing to start connecting these dots and seeing the great things that are being done, and those stories go on and on. For sure. So let's talk a little bit about your new role, moving out of the world of sports marketing and into a role with the IU Health Foundation. So how did that come to be? How did you get convinced to move from your then home, Lexington, Kentucky, back to Fort Wayne, and this role specifically? What led to that? Well, absolutely, and thank you for that question. And we would be remiss to not talk about my time in Lexington, Kentucky. So leading that charge for IPFW gave me the experience of a lifetime, and it truly was, to go and focus and work as the general manager for corporate partnerships at the University of Kentucky for a company called IMG. And so it was building partnerships. It was working with corporate partners, donors, fundraising, all that kind of good stuff that goes around having a very successful Division I athletic program focused on men's basketball and really primarily football at this time. To really get in there and work on the business side of those sports. So all told, my time in Kentucky was 20 years, 15 of them with the university, probably 12 on the front end, 3 on the back in the NIL space. But it's all been about mentoring, encouraging, believing in others, kind of lifting folks up and kind of uniting organizations that may have an idea, may have a need. How can they utilize the University of Kentucky brand or the UK fan base to really drive business and sales?
Yeah.
And having a ton of fun along the way.
Yeah.
My father, he was a drywaller in this town and worked incredibly hard. My mother was a city servant and worked at the city county building back in the day for many years. But it was, it doesn't matter what you do, just do it better than anybody else. And so I took that advice to try and really plug into my time in Lexington and take advantage of every opportunity that was given to me, and had a great support system to do that. But ultimately, it was those relationships, that idea, that perseverance of, can 1 + 1 = 3, and together can we do more?
Yeah.
And that philosophy is really what's bringing me to Fort Wayne to have what I'll call the opportunity of a lifetime, to come back home around friends, family, loved ones, and really make a difference in a community that I am incredibly passionate about and love, for an organization that has great heart and truly is doing great things here by providing access to care, treating patients well, and now ultimately building a new hospital. And with that comes a great responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. So, and you mentioned this before we hit record, that you actually had some interactions with Asher when you were in Lexington because of the work we did for Subway. So, small world, I guess.
It is a small world. I mean, and again, the history of Asher being 50 years old and being a part of this community. But yes, my time in Lexington, the Asher Agency at that time had managed the Subway account nationally, and they were the title sponsor of the Bluegrass State Games, which brought 10,000 athletes to Lexington for 2-3 weekends to compete in different Olympic sporting events. It was an annual event similar to what Indiana has with the White River State Games back in the day. But it's funny, Asher was a part of that, and even my time at IPFW, one of my favorite professors was Larry Wardlaw, and he was instrumental. Again, just another person who in this community wrapped his arm around me and said, hey, you've got this, you can do this, and sort of gave me the confidence and belief to go out there and achieve those dreams. Yeah,
we're really fortunate to have Larry as part of our history. He was one of the reasons I started working here. I didn't know many people at Asher, but I think everybody knows Larry. And he encouraged me to, try this role, and 21 years later, here I am. So thanks, Larry.
Well, and honestly, it's a special gift to be able to, just believe, encourage, and cheerlead for others. And Larry has always done that. I mean, I think that's a natural thing for some educators and teachers. But have been really blessed to have those folks in my life.
One thing I can genuinely say about Larry, and I don't know that I could say this about anyone else I've ever known, is he's someone who will tell you things that are hard to hear, but I literally, even though he does that, I don't know anyone who has a bad word to say about Larry. I know a lot of people who won't tell you what you need to hear, and people like him, but for the wrong reasons. I know some people who are well-liked, but Larry is the only one who he's going to be honest with you, but does it in a way that preserves the relationship and sometimes makes it even better because he is that, sort of conscience. Yeah,
and our relationship, it always felt like he was giving to the relationship, that there was really nothing, no agenda or anything he was trying to take from it. There was nothing I was doing to help him or help Asher at that time. It was just, him taking a chance on at this time, a 20, 21-year-old and giving him life advice and really wishing the best. And how special is that?
Yeah. We need more of that in the world.
Amen.
Yeah. So, Brian, you've got a successful career in Lexington. You're having a good life there. What has motivated you to make a career change and come back? You could have kept doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's a lot of work to learn a new industry and all the language that comes with it. What's the motivation behind that?
For me, this was very personal. An opportunity to come back home, make a difference, but be around friends and family. And you ask about, what changed. I think wisdom and maybe a little bit of old age, but personally, both my wife and I had cancer diagnoses at different times. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had thyroid cancer. And that sort of changes perspective when you hear the C word. And as you're driving, through this town or, through the Hoosier State, every house you pass is dealing with something or their own set of battles and their own issues. And I always guess you kind of had that at 20, that thought of invincibility, and you're just sort of humming, and you're going to be career driven, and nothing's going to stop you. And then 20 years of doing that and chasing, and you hear that word and then you start thinking, what really matters, and it comes down to the ones that are going to be there at the end, and again that's family, that's friends. And it's about leaving a legacy, and maybe hopefully having a chance to make Fort Wayne a little better than I found it. And I tell you what, from where Fort Wayne was 20 years ago to where it is today, there's been a whole lot of people pouring into Fort Wayne and really being difference makers. It's incredible to see the growth and how this city has transformed. But I do feel like this position gives me an opportunity to do that. And so what was it? One, I think it was that intrinsic motivation, but then two is the opportunity. So in my role as the director of the IU Health Foundation here in Fort Wayne, I have an opportunity to walk along IU Health and really help shape and create a lot of different unique programs that can support the work that's being done by our nurses, doctors, and medical team in a way that's incredibly impactful. And so that comes with partnerships. It comes with being a good listener and being creative and, finding donors and grant opportunities to really put creative programs together that can really truly lift this community up and do good for all people. And I've worked, as we talk about coaches in the sports world, we've got an incredible leader at IU Health in Brian Bauer and what he's done to be able to sort of transform healthcare in Fort Wayne and to, already be here in the middle, building a $421 million hospital off of Interstate 69, Lower Huntington Road. He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk, and spending a couple afternoons and hearing his vision and hearing his story and kind of having the opportunity to do this with him. It was an offer I couldn't say no to.
Well, and I'm sure it's unique that a health system is being sort of built from the ground up in a community the size of Fort Wayne. A lot of times in cities this size, you have your incumbents, and they're either renovating old facilities or they're building new facilities, but the entity itself has been around for a long time. IU Health is kind of a startup, in Fort Wayne, not around the state, but in Fort Wayne. And correct me if this is wrong, but started with primary care, some ancillary services, some urgent care, and built off that success, now building the hospital. Pretty big undertaking, pretty ambitious, but seems like the right moment as Fort Wayne is growing.
Yeah, it's the idea of starting small, making the ripples to create this gigantic tide that's coming. Yeah. And you're right. As you look at IU Health as a system, it is one of the larger employers in the state, almost 40,000 employees. From a foundation standpoint, one of the largest nonprofits in the state. But new to this area, new to this region. And we all know that, healthcare in Northeast Indiana can use a shot in the arm, can use a boost. And so if we can provide more access, if we can provide competition, if we can help lower costs, those are all wins for the people of Northeast Indiana and Hoosiers everywhere.
Let's take a moment to talk about something that can revolutionize your business: branding with Asher Agency. Ever wonder why some companies just stick in your mind? That's the power of great branding, and it's exactly what Asher delivers. Visit AsherAgency.com for more info.
Well, and it's interesting to me. It's a good combination of a solid foundation in the IU Health brand with some new energy. I had the opportunity to work with Brian years ago, and at the time, he was kind of this young disruptor, and I mean that in a positive way, in the healthcare space. So he brings the knowledge of the community, backed by a brand that's established and trusted, and I would guess he's going to do some things that are new to healthcare in Northeast Indiana if what I learned a few years ago is still true.
So for the last 12 years, I've been learning and watching folks like John Calipari, Mark Stoops, even Mitch Barnhart, who's the athletic director, and these great leaders talk about, having a plan, working the plan, being creative, being ahead of their time, and Brian's every bit of that.
Yeah.
An unbelievable entrepreneur, unbelievable of being able to not only get to the idea, but then to execute on that. And somebody that has created a ton of goodwill in this community by just doing right by people.
Yeah. Well, and what struck me at the time was his ability to build relationships with physicians and nurses who can be a tough audience, right? They do really hard work. Their time is really valuable. And he had some of the strongest relationships in the healthcare space I've ever seen. I don't know what he did, but he was doing it right. Because those folks then said, when you're building something new, we want to be part of it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. His background, he wasn't a doctor or in that,
And it's hard to be trusted by those who are clinicians if you're not one.
Correct.
Yeah.
And for him to be able to break through and to lead that, that specific group of men and women, it is impressive. And, that's one of the conversations that we had. Like, hey, I believe in you. I believe in this opportunity. I know I can do well, but this healthcare thing is new for me. And he's like, I can teach you that.
Yeah.
I need somebody who's going to get up every day thinking about this and really passionate about making a difference. And so it's been a great start. The work ahead of us is immense. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. But what a great opportunity and what a great honor to be able to get up every day thinking about how can I make a difference for this community in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And whether, these first 90, 120 days, it's been all about kind of listening sessions and going out and, relearning the community. And every conversation is from the heart, somebody that has a story that really makes you think and want to make you, act and get involved. And that's, the person that, our office downtown next to Coney Island, or the mayor's, a conversation with the mayor, or anybody else in between. Everybody has their story, and healthcare is going to affect all of us, and that's one of the things. Going from IPFW, which had a smaller fan base and audience per se, to Kentucky that had a statewide reach. But now working in healthcare, this affects all of us, and everybody's going to need a hospital at some point.
100%.
So it is with great honor to be able to do that, and thinking about how do we look at the social detriments of health and be able to put together some innovative programs that may address whether it's an issue with substance abuse and recovery, or it's potential something with mental health and youth violence initiatives that's been popping up here in the city, or maybe it's homelessness, and all of these things add to life expectancy, which is what it's all about. How can we extend our game? How do we put more minutes on our clock? And so it is an interesting parallel.
Well, and one of the things I heard a number of years ago that stuck with me ever since I heard it was an economist, and he was talking about how the American economy, it was agrarian, then it was manufacturing, then it was service. And he said, in the next century, it's going to be a healthcare economy, where that's going to drive the economy, is our ability to innovate in healthcare, provide people with an experience that is positive so they want to come back. A lot of healthcare right now is challenged because of some of the bureaucracy and some of the way we've always done it. This is a chance to do some new things while building off that trusted brand and what's tried and true, but do some new things that make people want to access healthcare instead of seeing it as a burden.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I asked these same questions to our leadership and our chief medical officer, Dr. Sutter. What's going to be a differentiator for us, and how we're going to market compared to any other hospital, and for him, and meant this sincerely, we're going to do what's right for the patient always.
Yeah.
And
imagine that. What a concept.
We're going to be patient-centric.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's exactly how we've operated, which is why the scores that, you mentioned our primary clinics and urgent cares, they're the highest, I mean, nationally that you'll find. I mean, in the low 90s, 91, 92%.
Yep.
And to think about people that are having to be in a waiting room or having, some of their worst moments.
Sure.
Now do a survey that says, hey, 92% satisfactory. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But it's because, we do have a team that leads with heart and empathy and is, again, walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
So, Brian, as you look ahead to the next few months, what's on your to-do list? What are some of the important things you're going to be trying to focus on?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that the foundation supports the hospital as well as these social detriments of health that are impacting Indiana. Our mission at IU Health is to make Indiana one of the healthiest states in the country. And right now we're in the bottom third. We have
a long way to go.
We got our work cut out.
Yep.
So, issues like tobacco cessation, issues such as, just getting out and eating right and getting healthier and obesity and all of these things are issues that we can tag team for. But projects that I get excited about are looking at workforce development. We're going to be hiring 700 new positions as we open this new hospital here in the next 15 months. So how can we look at bringing people and believing and coaching those folks up to come and be a part of the system and lead the IU Health way? How do we utilize the resources and partnerships that are available in the mental health space to be able to look at doing something really impactful with behavioral health? How do we bring a world-class cancer center or the Riley Children's Hospital to Northeast Indiana so our families don't have to drive hours for chemotherapy and families and kids don't have to drive to take their kid down to Riley. So those are a lot of the things that we'll certainly work on. We've got an unbelievable opportunity with the IU brand to maybe even look at working more closely with our medical school and truly being an academic medical center.
Yep.
And, so those are things that certainly get exciting. And then also thinking about healthcare as a region. So right now, all of our clinics are in Allen County. I think it would be great to be able to look at the other 11, 12, 13 counties that are in Northeast Indiana and be able to replicate kind of what we're doing in Allen County and take that elsewhere. So we're already hearing from counties around us saying, hey, can you help us? And I think if you really want to solve healthcare issues across the state, you kind of got to go outside in instead of inside out. And so how are we going to do that in the rural areas? Yeah.
So a lot of work ahead.
A lot of work ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's pivot to questions that hopefully won't be a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
Let's start with career success and fulfillment. You have, moved away from home. You've come back. You've worked in a couple different fields now. What have you learned about what it takes to have a successful and fulfilling career along the way? What wisdom can you pass on to others?
Yeah. So I would tell people to, if the mind can believe it, the body can achieve it. That's one of my favorite quotes is, plan your work your plan, but it starts by really thinking about what do I want to do in life? Where do I want to go?
Yeah.
And again, as somebody who went to a very small elementary school and often was picked last on the basketball team, I knew I wasn't going to be a basketball player.
Yeah.
But I had this great desire and love for the sport. And so I found ways to stay around and be involved.
Yep.
And you look back and you see, not only of what I've done, but other friends that have had incredible success along the way. And we were all at one time trying to figure this thing out, but it started by really buckling down and having a plan and working that plan to achieve those goals. They didn't just happen accidentally.
Yeah, well, and I think that's really good advice, especially for younger people. Life's going to happen to you, and if you don't have a plan, it's going to be less aligned with where you want it to be, right? You can't control everything, and your plan isn't always going to work out, but it sure isn't going to work out if you don't have one. Yeah.
And on things not working out, that's okay too. Don't be afraid to fail.
Oh yeah.
And fail forward was also kind of a motto, but it's that old Michael Jordan quote of or maybe it was Gretzky that you miss 90 every shot you don't take kind of a deal, 100% of the shots you don't take.
Sure.
And so take your shots. And again, this is a I wasn't the walking billboard for what the IU Health Foundation director would look like. But I now have an opportunity to take a shot. And so you're darn right we're going to be creative in what we do. And I'm going to embrace that opportunity to think strategically, to build partnerships and make sure that we're doing that head on.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Second question for you. What myth or misconception exists that you would like to debunk, or what is maybe not appreciated enough? And this can be about the IU Health Foundation. It can be about healthcare. It can be about the world you work in. Anything that you want to go to bat for, either way, it's important to you.
Yeah, I think believing in the best in people is something that's really impactful. You hear stories about the healthcare industry, but just in general, and there's been that lack of trust. And we have some really good people that really have your best intentions. Yeah. And so I'll tell a personal story, but I had an opportunity to take my mother to her first doctor's appointment in years. And the doctor could have easily said we needed to check this box, and this box, and just gone through the list. But really was intent on listening and making sure she was comfortable and putting an individualized care plan for that would be different than yours and different than mine. But that's what she needed to get through that. And that custom solution is out there. So I would encourage people not to be scared. I mean, I know it's uncomfortable to call and make that appointment, but this is a team of professionals that truly have your best interest and want what's best. And it isn't a one-size-fits-all philosophy. It is that individualized approach. And so I think that's something that needs to be debunked. It's not trying to, just monetize or get you to come in and, get you treated. But there's a lot of heart in it with a lot of the people that they're caring for you.
I think that's great advice. And, it speaks to me personally. Just today at lunch, I was having a conversation with a coworker, and I truly believe that most days, most people do the right thing most of the time, right? We all make mistakes. And if you have that perspective, it makes life a little bit better. There's so much in our environment that we're told we need to be afraid of this, and you need to look, worry about what's coming around. But if you look around you, including, in healthcare, most people do the right thing most of the time. And, that's something that can be, and as you mentioned earlier, a lot of times in healthcare, you're dealing with people when they're not their best selves. They're not feeling well. They're scared. And if you can help alleviate some of that, not only does it help in the moment, but maybe it gives people more optimism in general.
And Anthony, let me use this time to tell two stories. So again, I've talked about a listening tour and truly coming and just being eyes wide open, trying to learn everything that I can. And I walk in. We have a clinic at Southgate Plaza off of Pettit, and this was probably my first week or two on the job, and I am greeted by this unbelievable ray of sunshine and front desk person that's smiling, and I don't have my badge, I don't have my name tag, but it's like, hey, I'm the new guy, and she could tell, hey, this is the new guy here. But the way she greeted and acted and cared. I left wanting her to be my life coach for life.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I need more of her in my life. Yeah. And then to also hear about a program that we've been doing for the last year, where we've been going into the into barbershops in Fort Wayne and sort of just meeting folks where they're at. It was a program that Brian and others were like, hey, you really need to go check this out. It's really awesome work that's being done. And then to go and meet the amazing woman behind that and the team that's helping her. But she's known as the IU Health Lady, and for the rapport, the non-judgment, but just to be able to do blood pressure checks and say, hey, this was the reading, you may want to look at getting this checked out. Yeah. Don't care where you get it just checked out, but this is information you need to know, and how you want to deal with it, you can deal with it. And people are hugging her and just, you couldn't ask for a better ambassador than what she's done. And like, that's the work that, even though it's small, is just examples of making a difference in this community. And like, that's what it's all about.
Well, and I love that that's a literal case of going where people are. We men can be kind of healthcare resistant.
Yes,
right?
we can.
I have a friend who recently had bypass surgery, and it was finally listening to the signals his body was sending him, right?
Yep.
But many of us, myself very much included, we ignore. And if someone were to come my way, that's an intervention that, might literally save my life. So that's great that that's being done.
It is great, and it's really special, and kind of neat on how some of those dots even got connected, because it's a program that's had some success in Indiana, and actually one of our board members, Alan Henderson, who you may remember from IU basketball days, was passionate behind that, and then to bring that to Fort Wayne. And you're right, I've got no doubt that it's made a difference and saved a life, and that feels pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. All right, one last question for you. What is something you use in your work? It could be a tool, it could be a tip, it could be a trick, it could be a hack that helps you get more done. And we've had everything from pen and paper to apps. Doesn't matter what it is, but what's something you rely on that helps you get your work done?
What a great question.
This is my secret way of stealing other people's ideas, by the way. So
we've invested as a company looking into AI and how to use that more efficiently. Yep. And so IU Health has a strong partnership with Microsoft. So Microsoft Copilot is in my world regularly. And it is unbelievable, and the different levels to that. So getting ready for, doing this kind of a speech, or going and speaking to Rotary or any sort of an organization, or going into a community, the information that it can research and put at your fingertips to help with these meetings, or looking at partnership ideas of, hey, what are some best practices that are being used in healthcare, hospital foundations, and it's just an assistant to be able to bring information your way. And so I don't think there's. One, we live in the greatest country in the world, and probably the greatest time, and to utilize these tools such as AI, such as YouTube University, to really be able to go online and teach yourself any of that stuff, and even social media. Again, much like probably everything in life, if you abuse it, it can be harmful. Yeah. But boy, is there some real tools out there to be able to utilize the social media to stay connected, or to learn and get ideas. Same with YouTube. Same with AI.
Yeah, well, and that's I think the challenge of 2025 is we have these tools that can help us. We have these tools that can be our biggest detriment. They can get in the way. They can sap our productivity. They can make us angry. They can make us divided. So it's up to us individually to say we're going to leverage them in a way that's positive, that we're going to draw upon the strengths of these tools, and we're going to have the discipline to put the other stuff aside. If we could do more of that, we'd be in even better shape.
Yes, we would. And and again, sometimes you fail. I did, after 20 years of being an iPhone user, I made the switch to Android. Because Motorola, the Razrs,
come over to the dark side. Yes,
had some AI that I was super interested in, and it was something that I ended up getting sold on, and I'm ready to go back to the iPhone. But again, don't be afraid to try it. And again, we got to continue to evolve and change with the time and utilize these tools. And we weren't blessed with children, but with a niece and other young people around us that they're utilizing these, and every day growing up with it is part of what their education is. And so it's been great to be able to stay tapped into that. But don't be afraid to try.
Look at you taking all these chances, moving back to Fort Wayne, getting an Android, going back to iPhone. You're really mixing it up. Yeah.
Amen. and couldn't be happier, couldn't be prouder, and more grateful of the opportunity.
Excellent. Well, Brian, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony.
And thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.
Thanks for joining us today. Next time, we'll be featuring another great guest, so be sure to tune in. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our show and leave us a review. It really helps others find us. Visit our website at asheragency.com for more resources and updates.